Call for evening prayer in the great mosque of Mecca, the holiest place of Islam. Every believer should at least once in his lifetime perform the Hajj pilgrimage here. Sami Angawi comes as often as possible to pray at the Kaaba. Dr. Angawi is a devout Muslim. One prayer in Mecca means the same for him as hundreds of thousands in other mosques. His family guided Muslims from all over the globe for centuries through the rites of pilgrimage. Seven is the number of times the worshippers must circle around the Kaaba. For Muslims, the only place on earth still inhabited by the Spirit of God. Sami is Professor of Architecture and for many years was head of a research institute for pilgrimage. The mosque has extraordinary dimensions. 1 million worshippers can pray simultaneously, another million on the square in its front. In the age of mass pilgrimage, Sami Angawi has one obsession: saving the spirit of Mecca.
This is the center of the earth, I think, to us, and the center of our soul, and the center of our prayer. And this has the house of God. And it says in the Quran, this is guidance for all mankind. It's just like a light in the middle of the darkness that you can give you guidance wherever you are.
We follow Sami Angawi to Mecca on the fast track.
It's the journey of your life. Now you can go through in 12 hours in air-conditioned GMC and airplane. Eventually you can even, be riding from the airport all the way back in maybe some sort of a machine, and that will carry you all the way through and back. That's possible technically. But would this be the journey that the Hajj is about? This is the question.
Arrival at the holy precinct, 12 kilometers from Mecca. Non-Muslims are not allowed to travel any further. Pilgrims change at the clearly indicated border into the ihram, a white unsewn cloak, symbol for the equality of all Muslims before God, in theory. In reality, the offer of indispensable accessories for the pilgrimage suits different budgets. Rich Saudis prefer to leave the religious micro-business to their employees from Pakistan. Purity of body and soul are for pilgrims a religious duty. The ablutions are part of a strict ritual, otherwise the pilgrimage is void. Beginners can consult detailed manuals. This pilgrim from India is proud to be a descendant of the Prophet, the 32nd generation to be precise.
I'm also a Said, a descendant from the line of the Hassani. Praise to God.
I'm from Makkah.
Makkah, mashallah, mashallah.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Madras, India, South Madras, Nagur Sharif.
MashaAllah.
Descendant. My wife, my son-in-law, daughters.
Daughter-in-law, mashallah. Allah Akbar. How was
Hadi? First time, my sixth time.
MashaAllah.
Inshallah, I'll be Hajj and Bad. My great-grandfather, Masjid Nabawi, and going to Iraq, Iran, Jordan, Syria, Pura Ziyara.
A first glimpse of Mecca, a fast-spreading city of millions in the middle of the desert. In these mountains, God revealed Islam to his messenger Muhammad. Sami Angawi pleaded numerous times with the Saudi government, to no avail. The architect is witnessing the destruction of his hometown helplessly.
All those towers and all those buildings were, even the mosque I don't see anymore. The minarets are disappearing. And it's either something which is garbage and junk, or something which is, modern and totally no relation, either to environment, culture, tradition, and meaning of what Mecca is about, and Medina, of course.
This is the holiest place of Islam.
This is the holiest place of Islam. I want to show you, in a way.
The palace of the Saudi king and five-star hotels owned by princes surround the holiest mosque of Islam. We follow Sami Angawi and a group of his students to Friday prayers, the most important prayer of the week. Saudi Arabia is the most conservative country in the world, and for foreign media, rarely accessible.
This is the new Mecca, what you see here.
What is it?
And the one next to it is intercontinental. Intercontinental. That's what Mecca, the new Mecca. And it's called Dar al-Tawheed, the house of unity, which was the name used for the Kaaba. This is the new Mecca.
Now the hotels have the name
Of the name of the Kaaba, or the symbol of the Kaaba. Dar al-Tawheed.
And Jeddah, where Dr. Angawi now lives, were symbols of an open-minded and cosmopolitan Islam. Sami tries to preserve the remnants of this more tolerant Islamic past.
We have people from the whole Muslim world, everywhere, and living together, mixing together. And actually, then we have the architecture came out of that. And what we see here, reflected as architecture, is you have the collection partly from one side would be like, remind you of Egyptian architecture or Mamluk. And then you move in another part which could be related to India or Indonesia on the other side.
Sami Angawi's major concerns are not interior design. In his house he frequently holds majlises, traditional Arab assemblies. Angawi and his like-minded friends try to keep the former liberal spirit of the holy place alive, a small revolution for Saudi Arabia. Among the participants, women. One of them is Sami Angawi's niece Rada. Despite headscarf and physical separation, everybody here has the same right to free speech. Normally, women are not even allowed to leave the house without the permission of their husbands. A bit more freedom and emancipation within the confines of Islam, that is what these women hope for. Khadija, first wife of the Prophet and successful businesswoman, is their example. Everybody in Angawi's house knows the way to more freedom carries great risks. After the meeting, the discussion continues in a more intimate circle. This is how Medina looked about 50 years ago. And this is how Mecca looked. Everywhere else, such holy places would be protected, not in Saudi Arabia. For the radicals, the words historical monument equal idolatry. Nothing shall distract from God and the Quran. Even historic buildings or mosques built in memory of the Prophet's companions are simply blown up. The result, Meccalopolis.
Waking up and seeing the nightmare in reality by not having the traditional city of Mecca and of Medina and the fabric and the history and the religious, and it's being replaced by roads and streets and parking lot and concrete jungle.
The center of Medina. Only a couple of years ago, Mecca was famous for its dense date palm groves. Today, the second holiest place of Islam is approaching Sami Angawi's personal nightmare. Concrete and pompous marble replace history. Technically, the Great Mosque of Medina is certainly one of the world's most modern places of worship. Historical monuments is an expression best avoided in Medina. Muhammad, as Islam's first commander-in-chief, fought one of his most decisive battles of this location. Dr. Anwar Bakri, a friend of Sami Angawi, and the ever-present minder of the Information Ministry, show us the historic place. Not so long ago, this site was full of magnificent examples of Islamic architecture, built by the first caliphs in honor of the Prophet's fallen companions. Today's pilgrims can contemplate wasteland surrounded by a wall.
Like everywhere in Medina, there were beautiful domes and mausoleums. They were destroyed by the Saudis. The Saudis are just naturally convinced that domes and tombs are innovations unwanted by God. For them, it's the equivalent of worshipping idols.
Sparkling modernity in turn does not bother Saudi hardliners. Glass and concrete do not distract from God. Sami as an architect does not oppose modern technology. Real progress for him is something different, something which goes beyond the surface and is rooted in an open-minded Islamic heritage.
تبغى والله نبتدي نقول لك إنه المسافة بينهم بين المبنى ده والمبنى ده. A society with no tradition is a man with no memory. We need our tradition so we know who we are. We need our identity so we know who we are in the middle of this world. And not just for the sake of being prejudiced. No, it's more. It's for the sake maybe I can benefit you from the other part of the world from what I know, and maybe I can benefit from you from what I know and tradition. So we have a chance to, but if we're all the same, we're all exactly the same, what will be the result?
Sami Angawi tries with his architecture to preserve some elements of Arab cultural achievements. His company is also one of the few in Saudi Arabia that employs women. We are driving to one of Islam's most important historical sites. The Prophet Muhammad hid here from his enemies and started his journey from Mecca to Medina. The so-called Hijrah is the starting date of the Islamic calendar. Today, the religious authorities try to dissuade people from coming here, in 5 languages. Still, these men try to retrace the route the Prophet took to found the first Islamic community, with the GPS. Along the way are trees filled with traditional lucky charms.
You know, they say people's behavior is not according to what the Prophet teach. The Prophet did not say tie a knot on a tree, so you cannot tie a knot on a tree. And if you do that, then you're deviating. And if you insist, then you're making shirk or bringing a companion to God.
But he didn't say do not tie.
He didn't say, but this is the way they think. If it doesn't say, then it's forbidden. You need to have a permission for freedom. But this is not Islam.
Fortunately, not all Muslims trust the Saudi definition of true faith and its numerous prohibitions.
God knows better, but no government of Saudi government has written this. What they want, they have written.
With the same spirit of defiance, followers of non-Saudi doctrines of Islam continue to walk in the footsteps of the Prophet. Sami secures evidence. He takes pictures of one of the last historic mosques near Mecca, the place where Muhammad's first followers swore allegiance. The house of worship may be over 1,000 years old, yet it is due to be demolished. Dr. Angawi has seen it over and over again. The fundamentalists stop at nothing, not even at the Prophet's memory. Their culture of intolerance and uniform thinking is, in his opinion, the major reason behind the crisis of Islam.
What happened here is in a way everybody's talking about terrorism, and what is happening is intellectual terrorism, cultural terrorism. That, no surprise that it leads to what's going on, because once you control the mind and you order it in a certain way with the hope and with all the time telling him, if you do what I tell you, you go to heaven, then that poor guy think that this is the only way, and then you can tell him to do what he wants to do, but you prepare him, and that's known. So you prepare him to follow you, to listen to you until the right time comes.
The Wahhabis succeeded in destroying most of Mecca's Islamic historical heritage. Only the pompously reconstructed and enlarged Great Mosque is left. Only a couple of years ago, the House of God was entirely surrounded by historical quarters. Pilgrims recognize in Sami Angawi a descendant of the Prophet, one of the few reminders of their history, which, like most human beings, they want to stay in touch with. Another of the scarce relics is Zim Zim, holy water from the source that Abraham's wife once found after erring into the desert. Return to Jeddah with Sami Angawi. The former cosmopolitan harbour city of Mecca might have a glittering skyline, but it's nothing more than a superficial facade. An alibi of modernity that frequently hides backwardness and intolerance. Sami Angawi is invited by an old friend to join a Mawlid, a gathering in honor of the Prophet. Fundamentalists consider the mere attendance of such an event as an affront. For the Wahhabi, even innocent music is a statement of defiance and opposition to their diktat of Islam, not only because of the devilish drums. Every reminder that other older, more flexible Islamic traditions existed long before they conquered Saudi Arabia is a challenge to their role as self-declared guardians of true Islam.
I have often been massively attacked because I organize such events. And it might get worse. My friends are warning me already. Some Muslim organizations are claiming that I am Sufi and accordingly committing idolatry only because I maintain old traditions. For them, I'm infidel, an unbeliever.
To excommunicate, to declare somebody an unbeliever in Saudi Arabia is more than just a verbal threat, but a serious menace. Still, none of the men here want to give up their fight.
I stood up 30 years ago and I'm still standing, and I will carry on. But more and more people getting the courage when more and more people realizing that this way doesn't work. The way that has been forced on us for the last 70 years doesn't work anymore. So people are getting courage to speak out, to speak up.
Nobody here knows whether Sami Angawi and his friends will succeed in defending what they consider as the essence of one of the world's most important religions: freedom and tolerance.